Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Colt Levy, Rody Soul from My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, and you're watching Nerd On.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome.
Mm-hmm.
In a year of crazy outcomes and developments, we wind down looking back at the amazing episodes thanks to the guests we've had on this show. Today, we'll feature the last guest of the year, and what a guest to have. Our guest has the perfect energy of manifesting, diligence, and wonder. From JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kuroko's basketball to Genshin Impact, and recently, Record Ragnarok, Super Crooks, and Rody Soul. In My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, we have Ryan Colt Levy.
Ta-da!
In the studio
There's
today.
the red carpet for you.
Boom.
What an intro. I wasn't
Yeah.
prepared for that.
You're welcome.
I wasn't prepared for that either.
I didn't realize I was the last guest of the year.
Yes,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
Rounding out
special.
21, yeah.
You're special. Today is special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, friends.
Right.
I'm honored to be here.
Right in the mix of all of our holiday stuff. So it's
Yeah.
a real nice, warm, cozy blanket of episodes here.
Exactly.
We're upgrading from strangers to friends.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Very, very quickly.
Thank
Believe me.
We'll tell the story of how we got you on the show once we get there, but let's do the housekeeping first.
Housekeeping needs to be done.
Keep
I
the house.
am Josh,
I'm Tom.
I'm Corey.
and this episode, as always, is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get bonus episodes that nobody else
What
hears.
else?
You get early access
No
to
way.
like episodes like this.
All right.
You get early
Chill.
access to merch. You get like discounts on
Discounts
merch.
on the merch. That's
You
what's
get access to super secret channels on our super public Discord server that are only for you and other Nerd On Nation members. You can talk to us and other members. It's a fun time over there. The conversations are always just cool people.
What's the difference between a public Discord and a super public Discord?
I mean, this
The
one's like
super, obviously.
super public.
One got bit by a spider.
There it is.
Crazy? The super.
It's
A
super.
radioactive Discord channel.
God, jeez. So consider joining the Nerd On Nation. You do get, like I said, fun perks, but you also at the same time get to support us as we grow, as we keep creating content, upgrading our content, and being the best that we can be. So check it out, nerdon.tv/Patreon, and check out that Discord, nerdon.tv/Discord.
Man,
There's all sorts of fun conversations going on over there. But
that
Also-
was smooth, man.
right?
Real smooth. Even threw you a curveball, but you came out. Speaking of smooth, Tom,
Oh
what do you got for
my
us?
God.
Well, it's the holiday season, and you don't know what to get your gift or stocking stuffer for your friends and family. Well, today's sponsor, Manscaped, has the tools to guarantee you win this year's stocking stuffer or white elephant competition.
Mhm.
Manscaped is the leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they have served more than 4 million men worldwide. If my math is correct, that's almost 8 million balls.
That's
It
a lot
is.
of dudes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Get
That's a lot
20%
of
off
dudes.
and free shipping at manscaped.com with code NERDON. And did I say it nerdon.com?
Mm-mm.
Manscaped.com.
Yeah.
Nerdon.
I mean, nerdon.com doesn't even exist, so you know,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
cool.
You can get things like the Weed Whacker. Actually, my favorite thing recently I got was the body wash and shampoo and conditioner.
Hey.
And I didn't know they could make those things.
It's
And
all
those
new
are-
products. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
no, they could make those things. They have a capability to
They,
make
have,
it's-
they can do it now.
It's kind of like if Samsung was like, "Oh, hey, look, we have a washer and dryer, microwave." Also,
I like their
here's-
chapstick, to be honest with you.
Don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. But
Yeah.
then they're also like, "Hey, how about a fabric softener?" Like, "Oh, I didn't know you." did
Samsung's
that."
I see
fabric
what you're
softener.
saying.
Yeah, but then they're like Manscaped's like, oh, we have trimmers and shavers, and also lip balm.
Yeah.
Also, like a little deodorant.
They're
So I was like,
cornering the
oh.
market.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got it.
it's actually really, I was
It's nice.
surprised. It's really good.
Yeah,
Like their body wash. But I was most impressed by the shampoo conditioner combo. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It smells. It smells honestly like that professional like barber smell,
Oh,
which is
okay,
actually very
okay.
nice.
So yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and so it has kind of like a little bit of like a musk to it, but like it smells. It feels professional, feels clean,
Gives you that
smooth.
pep in your step.
Yeah,
Pep
and
in the step.
I've been practicing with my long hair, and typically if I use like a good shampoo and conditioner, my hair gets really like frizzy and wavy, and this didn't have it. It had like a nice sheen, nice weight to it, good volume.
Nice.
Yeah.
So nerd on.
So,
use promo code nerd on.
I just realized we're about 200 episodes in. How did I escape doing any housekeeping ever?
because
You know what? It's
Well,
actually
you
kind of
just
brilliant.
you
Yeah.
just let it slip,
I
and
let it
now
slip.
next season they
It's
are
the end of the
going
year,
to,
so I feel like I
yeah.
got to bring it up now.
that's
but
your
I just,
quirk.
All right, there
That's
it is.
and also a shout out to Odyssey Apogee and Embody
Embody
Audio. The Embody Audio specifically, they are amazing people over there. They have a great software that actually recently Final Fantasy XIV had a major expansion released, and Embody Audio actually, if you have the PC version, has Embody Audio built in.
Wow.
You turn on
All I can
spatial
hear every
audio.
time you say it now is the
Embody
song.
audio.
Yeah.
What kind of magic is that?
Exactly.
Witchcraft.
Marketing.
So check them all out. But let us
You can do this.
let us get on to
You got
this.
this.
Lettuce goes in a salad.
The sandwich of an episode.
Yeah, the sandwich segue
Yeah, there it is.
into the episode, the main course. So I follow this gentleman on Twitter. A couple of years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this acting and voiceover thing a real shot because I studied acting for a long time. I was like, I'm going to do it. My Twitter is like perfect right now. It's just like it's like
Curated?
It is curated. It is basically all voiceover.
It's very non-toxic.
It's
for you.
very
That's what you're saying.
non-toxic and it's very supportive and very inspiring. And one of those peeps is this gentleman next to us. His Twitter is just, if I ever want a nice, just little lift.
A little reset on the day.
He probably has posted something
Little
that's
spiritual sip of coffee in a
yeah,
sense.
it's like, I love it. And one day I had retweeted one of his things and just said, I can always count on Ryan Colt Levy for inspiration. And we got to talking. And so one of our, Talon, shout out to Talon, was like, maybe he should be on an episode. I was like, I don't know what do you think, Ryan? He's like, let's do it. So
Hey, we're
Here
here.
we are.
I think this is our first like social media booked guest.
I think
Really?
so.
That's how it worked out.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's
Usually
trippy.
I get up the nerves and just email an agent.
Cold
Yeah.
query.
Just
baby.
and
Cold calling, yeah.
like that's how I got Kevin Conroy. I was just like,
Yeah.
hey,
Oh, man.
what do you think? And they were like, yeah, can you do tomorrow?
Oh, that's right. That was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'll scream
Oh, sorry.
for you from that. My gosh,
Yeah.
no, that's incredible.
Very fun.
So welcome to
How
the
was
show.
that, by the way? Just for a quick, like,
Surreal.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
pretty cool.
It's great.
I felt like I was 5 years old for the whole interview.
yeah, because
was
I
like,
would
Batman!
for sure. Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
it was great to see him 2 years later at Comic-Con and be like, "Remember us?" He's like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Yes."
That's very.
He
cool.
was our second major guest, but probably the biggest one at that time. We were
Mhm.
only like 3 months old.
That's
Yeah.
that's legendary. That's incredible.
well, it's just even on like a podcast level, but even on a human level, like, oh, it's my childhood.
Yeah.
It's my Batman.
But
Yeah.
this is cool how this kind of just came real human like.
Yeah.
This interview
it's-
here. I really like it manifested.
Thank you
itself.
for taking your time, Ryan.
no,
Colt.
Yeah.
thank you for thinking of me and wanting to spend time with me. I'm honored. I'm grateful for you guys and your time and for Talon, dude. I love you. Well, I literally was talking to him this morning. So
Oh,
that's-
nice,
yeah,
There you
nice,
go.
nice,
I
nice.
have to ask. First question. This is a dumb question. Now, Ryan Colt
I'm
Levy.
all about dumb questions.
Do
I
you-
ask them all the time.
Do you would like to be addressed as Ryan Colt Levy? Because I'm going to call you Ryan Colt Levy until the end of time, unless you're like, Joe, just the first name's fine.
You know, it's so funny because I don't really. I feel like everyone else, now that I'm doing stuff where I'm like doing interviews and things,
Sure.
I'm talking to people, I'm realizing how much everyone else thinks about my name,
About the three names.
and I don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just like the way that the three names kind of always work together. Always when I was a kid, and I've never like my friends don't call me all
Ryan
three
Colt
names.
Levy.
Yeah,
Hey, Ryan Colt Levy, what's
You
going
can honestly, you just call me whatever you want. I mean, I just find it funny that I'm realizing I'm like, oh wow, this is like a real.
It's a thing.
It's a thing, and it's more that everyone else is trying to be respectful and
Right.
and be courteous, and I don't know if I'm making it harder by being like, I don't care, and then it's just like sweating, and
And
they're
they're
like, just give me an answer.
Could you just give me one of those?
Can I call you like Rye Dog?
Totally.
said
You can
s-
call me whatever you
anything.
want. Seriously,
Dope.
as long as
Rye
it's
bread.
yeah.
Rye Bread? Yeah. Hey, what's up, Rye
It's
Bread?
nothing that hasn't already been said. Believe me.
Been called worse, right? That's what I always
For
say.
sure.
They're like, can I call you Corky? I'm like, look, I've been called worse things. It's totally fine. Whatever you want. Some guy calls me corn. I don't know. It's here we are.
Yes.
Well, you know what? It's funny because even like, and this is so crazy to even say, but like having to sign an autograph, which is a surreal, weird thing unto itself.
Right.
Mhm.
I just go to my initials. I just do RCL because I'm like my wrist. Like if I
Right,
if I
right.
have to, like if I have to
Right.
do like and that was an instant of like, oh, that's the first time I had to figure out what to do with my name.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you think about it. If you're doing the autographs, you're doing one extra name per autograph than most people have to do. That's a lot of wrist action.
Are
going
you
on.
are you left-handed?
I am, yeah.
So it's also even harder. Because then you might smear too.
It is.
right?
It is.
The bane of our existence, Tom.
Yeah, you and Corey.
Left-handed. I mean, I write
We'll
over
do
the
a
top.
right bump, but yeah.
Dude, I have to like do this thing and write. Almost
I know.
upside
Same.
down.
Well, because also the problem is with autographs, you have to use these markers where it's just instant smudge if you are.
Mhm.
Yep.
So it's crab claw. It's
When I did my-
Calligraphy.
and then they're like, "Can you draw a picture?" I'm like, I apologize. I will.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It'll have little streak marks everywhere if you're cool with that. I remember getting called
Yeah.
up in class to write on the whiteboard, and I was like, oh no.
Oh
But
man.
why? Overhand.
Well, we'll change it up a little bit,
Yeah.
and instead of doing the origin story that we usually do, let's
Wild
let's throw a little wild card. Let's go with, what job did you finally get to say, okay, I'm a working actor and don't need to take a non-acting job anymore? And how did you get there?
So, I guess the weird thing is, I almost feel like I can speak for almost any actor, is that you kind of just have to decide that regardless, because there's always an uncertainty of what comes next, regardless of who you are and
Jump.
where you are in your career. You could be working for a long time and have an illustrious career, and then for whatever reason cannot anymore. So I was in a situation where, because I was a musician for so many years in bands and worked all kind, I've probably worked 20 some odd day/night jobs,
Yep.
since I was like 14 years old, from New York to here. Some logical, some completely nonsensical, some you're like, that's a job, like so many weird things. But it was like, if it pays and it's
Like
whatever,
technically, yes, it is a job.
apparently,
Side hustle,
yeah,
the movie.
dude. I mean, laundry delivery service,
Yeah.
Oh,
like
shit.
weird stuff where you're like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yep.
Um,
Especially in New York. Yeah.
and the kind of crew that needs laundry delivery service is a unique one, and that laundry is unique, and suddenly it's like, there was one, I remember we would do a weekly thing where it was like ball pit from like some like playpen,
Yeah.
and because you're like,
Gotta
that's how
wash
they
it.
clean those
Right.
things, but it was like, gross, we're traveling with just like
Yeah.
Dirty
the remnants
balls.
of ball pit, literally dirty balls.
They're on manscaped.com.
Yeah, see? Giving it to you, Manscaped. But I basically was at a point in my life when everything just kind of hit this crazy crux, where I lost my job because they laid everybody off in my department. My band broke up in the same week,
Oof.
and I was on unemployment, and I literally like just kind of decided, oh, I avoided acting this whole time for all these different reasons, and this is, I guess, the universe's way of telling me, like, this is your only shot, dude. Like, how crazy are you?
Do it.
Yeah, it was basically like dare,
Right.
and I just immediately was like, okay, my only logic here is to just take the unemployment, take this time, not pursue finding another job, and just start looking, auditioning, doing whatever I can, find extra work, start taking classes, spend all the money that I didn't have anywhere I could to, afford
That's the
myself.
catch-22 of being a performer, where it's like you have to
You have to
You have
invest
to
in
spend
yourself
money to make
without
money.
any guarantee.
Yeah.
Without any guarantee. And it's always scary, especially at that point, because in my case, I was broke. And like, I'm talking like, late on rent, worried about moving back
ramen
home,
or this
you know.
workshop
Yeah.
or both.
Not even. It was
Rough.
I'm a feral dude, and it's one of those
You're
weird
a
things.
survivor.
It's one of those
I'm a
weird things
feral
where it's
dude.
like, I don't want to make it the kind of thing where other people hear it and they're like, oh, that's what I should do, because there's so many
Right.
different ways to
To
approach it.
romanticize
Yeah,
the
exactly.
torture that you've
Because
been
it
through.
sucked. Yeah,
Mhm,
like, I've been through so many crazy things, and I knew that I could, at least get far enough, and there was always a fear of like, I might have to move back home and live with my family in my
Right.
30s, like, after doing all this stuff that's gotten me here, so I just decided I had to call myself an actor and a working actor the second I was booking any extra work, doing anything. And I realized that my 9 to 5 of being an actor was spending time on every casting website, reading every book, watching every documentary, memorizing lines for plays that I wasn't even going to do, just like doing anything I
Stretching
could.
the muscles and stuff like that. Yeah.
Every day, I was like, if unemployment is the paycheck I'm getting, they're paying me to be an actor.
Mm.
So I'm an
There
actor
you go.
now.
And
And-
you were really good about being on set, even if like it was like some the background work and just observing and absorbing a lot of stuff. Because
I
you're
love
like,
it.
you needed to like process everything.
I think everybody it benefits, and it's funny. Like in the before times, when sets were a more common thing to be able to be an extra on, a lot of people would ask me different ways of like approaching acting, and I told everybody, and I still suggest it when it's safe to again. Like extra work is a phenomenal entry level thing into it because you, especially for on camera work in general, you learn so much about the environment, what is asked of you, what is asked of the other people, how much of a responsibility is to like be out of the way as much as it is to
Right.
know when to be in the way, and
How not personal things can be.
how not personal things can be, how incredibly large of a like production these things are.
It's a monster.
Like there's so many people involved that are
It's a little
responsible.
fly on the
yeah,
wall situation kind of thing.
yeah, and there's so much to learn. And there were plenty of people that I saw, that were extras because you are cattle.
Right.
The only opportunity you have to learn is if you make the opportunity to learn, because it's easy to just like zone out and spend 15 hours on a set and not learn anything. But
Sure. Right.
there's so much to mine there, and you can also end up literally, and you can get your SAG card through enough extra work through the right things. You could end up getting speaking lines on. You never know. Crazy thing. People can get careers out of extra work.
Right.
And I just at that point as well was like, if you're gonna do anything, any craft, even if it's something I've loved all my life and have done since I was a kid, I'm a 10,000 hours kind of guy.
Mhm.
Like where it's
Right.
like
Malcolm Gladwell.
I don't presume that I can just walk into a room and be like, I know how this goes. Like I need to learn everything.
You have a really good mindset because at the first job, like I think some people have a lot of like anxiety and worry of like, oh, can I say I'm an actor yet? Right? You were like, hey, the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm now an actor, and then but also even at that point, you weren't like, oh, well, I deserve this big
No,
role.
no, no,
You were
no,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I'm willing to put in the work in there. I think there's a good balance between the two because I think there's some people who are like, oh, I have to work really hard, do 10,000 hours, and I still won't be able to call myself an actor.
There's
right?
definitely, I mean,
Balance of humility.
there's that thing that we all feel to some regard or talk about to some regard, especially a lot online is, imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And I think like it's definitely there's an element to that I think that we're all concerned about in different ways, whether it's just ego or this or that or whatever, the balance of all of those elements. But I think that it's just it's such an unhelpful thing
Yeah.
in the road.
It's a weird roadblock. It's in it, especially with social media and like all eyes on you. It's becoming way more common because you don't have that time to really process it yourself without everyone seeing it at the
Yeah.
same time. If you're creating, especially with art, if you're creating something, before social media, you could create it, put it out there. It would slowly grow or whatever it was, and you had that time to process. Like, yeah, I make this. This is doing good. But right now, you throw it out there, and it's for everyone.
But there's
Yeah.
also
The internet is everyone.
Yeah, and social media has kind of built a culture of comparison.
Of
and
course,
I was gonna say,
unfortunately,
competition.
I'm
What's
very-
my saying, Tom?
Comparison is a thief of joy.
That's right.
yeah,
I'm
that's
very-
such a good saying.
I'm
But-
very like, oh, gotta keep up with the Joneses. Like, oh, those are real directors.
I mean, as a performer myself, I'm constantly having to remind myself, like, oh, I don't sound like that person. I don't have that voice. And it's like, as a teacher so gently reminded me recently, they were like, you're not them.
Yeah.
You
It's
are
also-
not that person. They have their own voice. You have yours.
It's also, and like this is my personal philosophy more than anything else, is like, and this is going to sound crazy considering it's what the job is, but like your voice is irrelevant. Your heart is relevant. Like your soul, your heart, your approach.
What you bring to the table.
There's you could line up dozens of people in any kind of like voice register and get a close enough tone of a thing. But the performance and your experience in life and your mental choices and your emotional choices and how you play out those scenes or your auditions or whatever it is, that's what is going to define you and separate you, because it is you, the individual. I mean, you can, how many movies do you watch where you're like, oh, and you read trivia and you're like, oh, this was actually going to be this actor. And you can picture it in your head, like, oh, they would have crushed it too. It would have been different.
Would have been
but,
different.
and why would it be different?
Yeah.
because
Their uniqueness is
yeah,
different.
like
yeah.
if Robert Downey Jr. reads a script, it's going to sound different than Christopher Walken reading that script, and it's going to sound
Right.
different than Jack Black reading that script. And it's
Yeah.
going to, you know,
It's I always say like, what if Wes Anderson directed Jurassic Park?
exactly.
It'd been a very
Yeah.
different movie.
Yeah.
I like also you toe the line pretty well in the nerd community of sub versus dubs, and you also talk about that. We're like, hey, if you don't like my voice, go listen to the sub version because they're probably a great actor.
Yeah, well, I literally don't even think about it as an
Yeah.
issue because it's not an issue. It's just people have preference of
Yeah.
taste, and it's more that people want to have an argument about it. And I think
They want to
like,
be right.
the only time, well, I just think the only time you see it is when people, yeah, either want to be right or just want to incite an argument and get a
Mhm.
rise out of
Right.
people because it's really a non-issue
There are clout
like,
chasers for sure.
for them. But I think thankfully we're at a point where like, you know, it only shows up for these kind of like flashbang moments, and for the most part, people are pretty chill about it.
Yeah.
Particularly about choices and defining about it. There is something I did pull up. Your first
Oh,
anime
no.
voice acting role was Jazz from Demon School.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Abear was someone who you looked up to and actually pulled you out for sushi. So your
Oh my
choice
gosh.
of sushi. Top 5. Give me what are you gonna
Whoa,
get?
top
Take it
5
out for
Top
sushis?
5?
Yeah, well, just like items, is it uni? Is it unagi? Is it ebi? What you getting? What?
Yeah, no, I love. Gosh, I mean, I'm big. It's weird because as a kid, like first there's like the entry level,
Yeah.
like, and then you kind of like. I think I went from originally it's like first you try the California roll as a
California
kid 'cause
roll?
you had
Mhm.
and then you like start to do like spicy tuna and you get to the eel and stuff like that and then but I think a couple of years ago I really got into just like the sashimi territory and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, so I'm
For
a big fan
real.
of like give me a good cut and I mean like I love salmon. I love a good tuna. I honestly there's a lot of like mackerel and like a lot of the weird
Oh.
ones that like
The very fishy kind of thing. Yeah, has
Yeah,
a nice oil to it.
yeah it depends because sometimes like have you been to Katsuya?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I love the way that
Oh, yeah.
they do theirs. So like
And they make it really immaculate and nice for you. So you're like,
Oh, yeah,
Presentation is key.
yeah, well if you're gonna go for it,
Mhm.
like
Yeah. Might as well.
yeah, they do it right. Yeah, and shout out to Kyle Aber for being like one of the sweetest humans in the world.
Okay, you are a nerd in your own right, watching short films, anime, and playing video games. What game out of your Switch and PS4 have you played that you wished more people would ask about, and why?
That I wish more people would ask about.
yeah.
Ooh.
Or knew about, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one because I like
Or
there's
any.
like
Yeah.
I feel like the obvious one that everyone sees me yell about is Hollow Knight, but everybody knows it's a great game.
It is.
It is. It's just enough people know. I should say
Sure,
like there's
sure,
there's
sure.
enough fervor. I'm trying to think of like something that I played recently. It was a really dope game actually that I played recently. That was another friend who you should totally have on sometime. Matthew David Rudd, another phenomenal actor,
For
and
sure.
wonderful human. Love you, Maddie. He
Sure.
suggested wherever your camera is, just somewhere. He suggested this game called Iconoclasts, and it's an indie game on the Switch. And it's one of those
Yeah.
things where like you'll be like, yeah, I think I've heard of that. And I had the same.
I've seen it on the store.
Yeah, it's like a platformer, but it's got this really wonderful kind of super deep story that I wasn't expecting. I love when a game can kind of have it all in the sense of like
Yeah.
it can be funny and playful and cutesy, but also be like really heavy and
Rich and story.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like can like almost use that to then like shock you and break your heart and suddenly make you realize like, oh, this is not for kids, but in a way that is like not even about violence or something, more about like this is way deeper.
The emotional
than,
intelligence of the
Real-
game is
yeah, brilliance. And I mean, there's the indie developers out right now, just across the board.
Speaking to me right now.
Killing
Yeah,
it.
indie games it's crazy. They're lower in price. They have so much a better cohesive story. But to your point, like it's a weird like the kind of a co-viewing where like a kid can just play like, oh, this is a fun platformer. It looks really cute. And then you tell about the story. It's like, oh, it's about losing yourself and finding yourself and who you are in the grand scope of the world. You're like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna feel something today.
It's so good. Yeah. So that's
Iconoclast.
that one for sure. And it's not long. That's the other thing is like most of these games, they're like 10 hours,
Super digestible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. And the music's great, by the way. Another one, The Messenger. If you guys haven't played The Messenger.
Haven't heard of this one.
I've
What?
heard it.
No, I mean that's why the question was
Oh
there.
man,
You
the
gotta-
messenger.
you gotta bring it
So
up,
the
signal boost,
messenger
baby.
Write that down,
also,
Josh, write that down.
I think it's on a bunch of different systems, but I played it on the Switch. But it's like, did you ever play Ninja Gaiden as a kid?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
So it's essentially like their homage to Ninja Gaiden. It's the
I'm looking it
graphics
up,
are
yeah.
extraordinary. The actual mechanics and gameplay, it's like a Metroidvania style game.
Okay, gotcha.
The music is mind-blowingly good, and the kind of conceit to some degree of the game is that both narratively and mechanically at a certain point in the game, and they show you in the trailer, so it's not a big spoiler.
Right.
You're able to play between, I don't remember if it's 8-bit and 16-bit or 8 and 32-bit, but it basically changes between like literal like systems.
Oh, very
Oh,
like
wow.
like how it would look and sound and aesthetically play out, but it also changes the level design, so you have to use it like
You have to
at-
kind of switch your play style
it's
to fit the.
fascinating.
That's
yeah.
pretty. That's
It's
pretty
Devolver.
cool.
Devolver's great.
Yeah, it's
Devolver as a
yeah,
studio is really good.
yeah.
I think they did. I don't know if you played Katana Zero.
yes. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
yeah.
Oh wait, they made that also.
I think they made that too, and they make a lot of really good.
That game is another one that is just devastating.
Well, when you were saying like how it was like, oh, Ninja Gaiden and 8-bit, that kind of stuff, I was like, oh, that reminds me of Katana Zero. I was like, oh, of course. And then I was like, yeah, because and to me, I feel like they don't really make bad games. Like they're all gonna be
they don't,
fun,
yeah.
playable. There's a cool story that you weren't expecting.
And again, great music. Like there's,
Oh.
and it's like the kind of, especially in the Messenger, it's the kind of thing where even before the game itself hooks you, the music from the get, literally, like you don't want to stop playing because you're like, this music is so good, it makes me want to play. Like the drums
they're-
just rage through. It's so good.
There are some games out there that you just like you're playing and just like the one that I love. Yeah, it's a big game, but the Last of Us games,
Oh, yeah.
their
Yeah.
soundtracks are just beautiful.
I felt the
They-
same way about Red Dead too.
Yeah. You're just like I just want to kind of mosey on my horse and
Just
just
gonna listen to this.
listen
It
to the
keeps
music.
you in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Death Stranding was another
Mhm.
one
Oh,
that,
yeah.
The music was perfectly
And
curated.
it
for
propels
that
you
game.
forward.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, where sometimes like, oh, maybe this is a lull or a grind or like a dialogue, but it's like the music's like, okay, I want to get to the next part too.
It keeps you in the world. It keeps you in the like energy of the thing for sure.
And then you have something like Doom that's like, I have
There
to
was
kill
a
people.
really cool one I saw that I haven't played because I'm not really like I'm not a first person shooter
Mhm.
kind of gamer, but this game just looked so cool and its creativity totally got me. So I want to try it at least. I'm pretty sure it's called BPM, but it stands for bullets per minute instead of like
Oh, beats per minute?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's from what I've seen is it's like all this kind of like continuous musical like metal kind of track, and it's almost like a Doom style game.
Okay.
But everything that you do has to be done within the rhythm. So like whether it's loading, shooting, or
Oh.
like
That's cool.
I think the developers for Payday made that.
Oh,
at
what?
first.
it's
'Cause
fascinating.
it was a rhythm-based shooter game.
It's really interesting. You should watch the trailer. Like it's one of those
Fascinating
things
to
where I
me.
was like, this is really unique. And as a musician, it really intrigues me. And I feel like people who like rhythm stuff, even just in a like just if it just like does something for you,
Sure.
like I feel like it would be a really
Rhythm-based
fun.
games do something for you?
You know what? Normally, no.
Okay.
Like at least I've never tried them. Like I was thinking about doing what was the Crypt of the Necro Dancer thing or whatever.
Yeah.
There's the Zelda one that they had. That I was
Mm.
like maybe,
I was
but
like, there's Thumper, which is supposed to be a horror-based
Rhythm.
oh, that's
rhythm
so.
game.
I
And-
mean, I love the creativity behind them.
When
Yeah.
you're blending the genres, it's like, oh, what's
So
gonna happen?
smart. I've just never tried one, but I'm the kind of guy that like I didn't play Metroidvanias until probably Hollow Knight. Really, like
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I didn't play. Fire Emblem Three Houses was my first Fire Emblem
RPG?
game. Well, not
So you're a
but,
fan of things that like
like-
kind of push the genre a little bit. That's where you kind of dive in.
as long as for me it's how I am with literally anything, whether it's a game, a movie, anything that I take in. I love being challenged by a thing as long as it has purpose and like reveals itself to me that it's like
Yeah.
It's
that
not
it-
trying to punish you.
right, or at least if it is like I played Bloodborne for the first time over like
That
I've never
game is
played any of the
punishing.
Souls games and
Oh, so
and I had
okay.
been
I mean,
had
Hollow
been-
Knight I feel like is a good way to get you into it. though.
which I didn't realize,
Mhm.
but I played it, over this pandemic, and it was like, oh, I guess I love from software games, like,
Yeah.
and but it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I would because, I was like, this seems like it might not be my kind of thing. So it's very much like until I play it, it totally could suddenly,
It challenges you as a player instead of kind of like forcing this kind of weird Avatar sense of progression. You as a player are getting better at the mechanics, and if you ever wanted to replay, you're like, oh, I can master this game.
That's a really interesting thing about it for sure. Yeah. I love that idea, and I also love the idea of having different kinds of games to play just to keep your brain more active and not be like, it's boring if you're playing like just the same like a bunch of different JRPGs or whatever.
Sure, right. Basically, different skin on the same game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep your skills sharp.
Yeah.
I have a quick question here, just from hearing what Josh has. I'm not a big Twitter guy myself, but from hearing what Josh has spoke about you, have you always kind of enveloped your career and kind of walked through life with this mindfulness, or did this come later on, or was this something that you always kind of gravitated towards, your positivity and mindfulness and stuff?
So I guess it's a hard question to answer personally, right?
Sure,
Because it's like, like you ask my mom, she'll have one answer, like she'll probably be like, he's always been this way, like, my mom's like the sweetest human in the world, so
shout out.
She is, love you, mama. Whichever camera you're on. My whole family, my mom, my sister, my dad, everyone in my family, extended and otherwise, like, is just so loving and kind.
So it's always kind of present in your life.
Yeah,
really.
my whole life growing up was just support, and even though
nice.
like we had,
It is.
and believe me, like it wasn't something that I took for granted ever, because
It wasn't lost on you.
it wasn't lost. I mean, we had, my parents got divorced, like we had plenty of
Shout
ups
out.
and downs within the family, but shout out to divorce.
Hey, man.
Yeah, no,
We're
listen,
here.
We out here.
I don't know what the percentage is, but we out here. But it's that thing where regardless, it was just, we were a loving family, and I was always aware of how valuable that was, or invaluable that was. And I had
Sure.
friends who, had rough families and this and that, whatever. And my family was the one to always be like, well, they're our family now.
Come
kind
on
of thing,
over for dinner. Yeah.
Band practice was always at my house, kind of thing. It was,
Gotcha.
it was
Ryan
that
Colt
environment.
Levy's house.
It was just like my family loved being creative, loved being around it, loved
awesome.
supporting me being this crazy kid. Like
Yeah.
there was never
Cultivating it all. Yeah.
there was never a point where they didn't support me being a complete weirdo. And like, I wanted to be a musician, an artist my whole life. So
Mhm.
all throughout school, while I was failing through school, they're like, you're just meant for, this thing that will eventually, like, you'll get there. We believe in you. And they always, and they knew that I had work ethic. I worked all these jobs, and I wasn't just like slacking off, but
Right.
they really let me be me. And I think that was a lot of the people that I was lucky enough to be surrounded with. I had incredible teachers, even though I was a terrible student. They were just like, they had great relationships with me, and they taught me so much more than what the school was trying to teach.
Sure. Yeah.
I had incredible friends. I still have incredible friends.
So it sounds like it comes natural
Yeah.
to
I've
you.
just been I've just been really fortunate, and I think it's just like, I don't know, I've been lucky that there's a weird like energy that's it's like, instead of a rain cloud that follows me, it's like
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to have some other kind of weird like
It's fun.
You know.
It's fun to hear you have such a kind of like a pretty wonderful upbringing. And to me, I'm going to say this in the nice way. It's like, oh my God, you guys exist, because typically it's always portrayed like wonderful upbringing, piece of garbage person, right? Who doesn't take consideration of what they were given. And I really like what you said about it was never lost on you how invaluable all that was. Like, even though like you might have struggled in school, you had great, teachers and professors and mentors and family members who were always supporting you. And it seemed, again, like you kind of in a way have subverted all like the weird mainstream media of like, you have things at your disposal like a support system, and it didn't take away a work ethic out of you. Like you had all those things with you. So that's pretty wonderful to hear.
Well, yeah, I'm again, I'm very fortunate, and I do feel it's that kind of thing where like I even up to this moment, I feel really, really lucky to be in a position where like I can tell other people like, hey, like the situation I'm in is like almost a freak accident, and like
Right.
believe me, like you can do this. Like if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
do this, like this, it's possible. Your dreams are possible even if you don't realize it. Like
But that goes back to your
you
first
know?
bit of advice, which is like show up as yourself though. Make sure you're doing it
Yeah.
your way. Don't follow this path that I took. Make sure you got true to who you are and how the path you want to take.
Well, and with any, I think with any creative experience that we go through, whatever we do, whether you're an actor, a painter, a director, musician, whatever, like through our growth, there's always a form of whether it's mimicry or like, like we're always,
Oh yeah.
regardless, taking from things. I mean, even still, even if you don't think, you are, actors are always taking from other things. And,
Yeah.
we just all do it. There was a great David Bowie documentary where he talks about, he's like, he's like, what do you mean?
All
Like,
the time.
he's like, that's literally how you write music. He's like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Obviously. He's like, nobody else wants to talk about it, but it's not a
I
shameful
think
thing.
I think there's a
You
quote.
literally soak it up now.
Yeah,
like,
you can't help it. There's
Yeah.
I think there's a quote where it said, "Good musicians copy, great musicians steal."
Right, right, right,
That's
right,
with
right.
artists.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
artists. But there's
Yeah.
there's like a cool human version of it where it's like, if it's not within the arts, it's like you are I think reflections of the 5 voices near you all the time. So like the
Oh,
5
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
5 people
yeah.
you're always around, like you tend to sound just like them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so-
I mean, it sounds like it comes natural to you. So my question, kind of as an extension to Corey's question,
Follow
is,
up?
what would you say is your own personal? You think is the secret to staying positive? For me, it's like I think about a way of like it's a muscle. For some people, like growing up, I didn't have a fully positive upbringing, but I learned to be positive, and it's sometimes you have to like build it as a muscle. And for you,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's natural, but I'm sure that there are times where it's like, well, this is the thing that I think I hold on to.
Oh, dude. I mean, like, regardless of how positive or whatever I may seem, I've had and will have, just because we're human, have dark
Mhm.
days
Yep.
and forms of. I mean, I was, before this incredible career, I had many, many, many scary, dark moments, and many, I mean, I didn't know this was gonna happen. I didn't know I had any
Yeah.
kind of, control over my future. I thought I was quite on the opposite end, where it was like I'm in my 30s and I didn't do it. Like I didn't do the thing that I was so sure I was gonna do,
Yep.
like, and put all my time and my money and then put my friends through like this thing and their time and money and all, like I felt responsible, like so
It's a lot of weight there. Yeah.
it was it was interesting. So like I think part of it's like you say, there is a muscle part of it, but I think it's also, and I'm sure you've seen me go on about this, but practicing gratitude, is a very real thing, because and it's not to say that like, people with like a real, deck of shitty cards would be like, well, thanks for the really shitty cards,
Right,
life, like, but there's always something that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
It's like I just play Yu-Gi-Oh with those cards.
yeah, for real, but I think my personal mentality has always been part, not the healthy version of being stubborn, where I'm like, I'll take the weight on my shoulders kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like going back to what I said about being feral, is like, even as a kid, even when I didn't need to, I almost would like randomly inconvenience myself to like find a threshold.
Because it's part of your training.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
know
Like,
what you mean, yeah.
like not even with acting, just
How
like as a-
bad can I handle it?
literally from like
endurance test.
endurance tests,
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, in all
That
kinds of
sounds like
ways.
someone who watched anime as a kid. I'm just saying.
You know what's funny is like I did, but like nowhere near as much as what you'd think, in the way that like anime never influenced my life growing up as a kid, like culturally. Like I just,
Sure.
it was like something I also watched, but like if you asked anybody when I was like 15 years old,
Mhm.
like 16, 17, if you asked anybody like what they would associate me with, it would be Paul Thomas Anderson and still I can't wait
Yeah.
to go see Licorice Pizza. Like
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's, people are like, oh yeah, he wants to work with the Coen brothers, and like, but I was also a crazy hardcore
Yes.
singer in a band, so like
Right.
it was just this weird, I was a weird mess of a kid, but
I
like
feel like Paul Thomas Anderson changes you as an individual.
for sure.
Yeah.
For the better. For the better, man. I want to meet him one day and just shake his hand. I just, I was always a weird kid, and I was always allowed to be a weird kid, and yeah, I think part of it was just that though. Like I've always had these weird like, okay, game on universe, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think
Let's
that
go.
yeah, especially in those in those really tough moments, especially as I've gotten older, and then like you get through a thing, and it's almost like when you get over a cold and you think it's like the worst, then you're over it, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm over it. Like I guess I can get over the next one if I get it, and you just kind of like build a little bit thicker skin or understand something. It's hopefully learning
It's
more
just
lessons.
pain.
It's just
But pain is life,
Yeah, pain is life.
But hopefully it's learning lessons, and I think it's the kind of thing where it's like nothing is easy, and just because you love a thing doesn't mean it's gonna be easy or it's gonna work or it's
Yeah.
gonna be
100%.
and to have a creative career is a crazy thing for any of us to try and do. Like it's not
Any career,
orchestrated
really, I think.
really any career. Well, and this pandemic, that's the thing too, is this pandemic really I think showed, because so many people who took the safe route
Yeah.
equally are in the same position that anybody who took a risky one is.
Yep.
So I think it kind of shows you bet on yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're gonna have to make those scary investments and double down. It's bets on yourself when it makes no sense and everyone else is like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
It reminds me of,
Yeah.
There's a story Jim Carrey tells about his dad
Oh yeah.
taking the safe job at the
Mhm.
bank and then
Yeah.
getting laid off, and then they had to move into a van, and he's
And they
like,
lived
you
in a
can
van for a
fail at
while.
what you hate, you may as well fail at what you love until you can get it right.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And that's another thing is like, even as a kid, I was always watching the people I admired. I watched every interview, every documentary, every making of, whether it was a record, a film, or whatever. Like I was always hungry for knowledge, even if I didn't think I'd have a career, because I just loved this stuff. People always used to ask me like why I knew every cinematographer's name, like, and it was like,
Because I love it.
because I'm just obsessed with it. Like, and people always be like, oh, I wish I knew them. Like, no, you don't. Because like, I don't, I'm not like, I'm in, like, I can't help myself.
Yeah,
like,
right.
like, and if you are compelled to, you will just do it. It's not your fault. I don't blame you. Like, you don't need
You almost
to.
can't explain it. There are some things that you research that you're just like, I don't know why I'm up at 3:30 a.m. looking at this.
For the fourth time. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And that's always been me with anything. When I was obsessed with dinosaurs and wanted to be an archaeologist, whatever it
Oh,
is, like,
my God.
I kind of just get consumed and consume. And the best part about this job is with acting is all of that
Helps.
comes back
Mhm.
and you can use it, and everything is about experience. And
It's osmosis, baby.
yeah.
Be a sponge.
Yeah. But I know I kind of like totally meandered off your
No.
question.
That's tangents are welcome here.
Yeah, we're giving
conversational.
the
Yeah.
audience all of you, and that's what we want.
I'm a big old tangent.
I
so.
just
A
made me
walking
think
tangent.
Yes.
like a new philosophy can be, all right, universe, I'm not locked in here with you. You're
You're
locked
locked
in
Yeah,
here
yeah,
with me.
yeah.
So when you were talking about that, and I don't know if everyone here at the table or listeners are very familiar with Family Guy. I
Oh,
know they
yeah.
know of the name, but the Y2K episode when the missiles go off and the entire world is destroyed. There's a moment, and it's a comedy moment, where Joe Swanson, who is in a wheelchair for most of the show, he is melted into the ground.
Patrick. Shout out to Patrick.
Oh, yeah, forward. And Meg throws down these like mouse traps because like, okay, we're leaving, bye bye. And he's like, oh, you're so sweet. And then they leave, but a giant mutated rat comes in. This man is physically melted into the ground.
Uh-huh.
What he says is, "Bring it on!" And
Yeah,
it's like, that's kind of like the thing where it's like you
That
could
was
be
a great joke.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You could be in the worst moment, worst experience, worst places, and like the giant rat's coming for you. You're like, bring it on. You got it.
That's yeah.
I used to think when there was a couple of years that I was doing CrossFit a lot, and it's very physically
Throwing tires out in a parking lot, huh?
yeah, it's hard. There's a lot. It's probably the hardest and the best shape I've ever been in my life.
There you go.
But
Heck yeah.
there were times where I was just like, embrace a suck, laugh
Mm.
it off. Like sometimes life gets to a place where you just got to have some sense of humor, laugh it off.
Oh,
'cause
100%.
It's only going to be another hour. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get through this.
And then you get on to the next hour, and then the
Yeah.
next hour.
When I to just round it out to literally, I would say like it was months into me starting to work as a voice actor, but by no means like in the capacity where I was like, I'm like in with all these studios and blah, blah, blah. Like I was working consistently enough, but I was still also on unemployment, like squeaking
Right.
it out. And I was looking at it going like, I hope some more people hire me soon kind of thing. My apartment flooded because we had a crazy
Hell
rainstorm
yeah.
Shit.
Wow.
in February of 2019.
Yeah.
That just like destroyed everything. And 2 days later, a drunk driver drove down the street and destroyed my parked car. I wasn't in it, but absolutely
Yeah.
destroyed, and I didn't have car insurance.
Right.
So, because he also destroyed 2 other cars and drove through my neighbor's fence.
Oh my god.
Holy
I got
shit.
basically enough to like pay like a month's rent off of it when
Whoa.
everything
Right.
cleared. So I was like,
Cool.
game on.
cool,
Yeah,
cool,
you know,
Right.
like that
cool.
Let's
was,
do
you know,
this.
just another like, and that was the kind of thing where it was, to me, that was literally like, the universe was like, oh, you found that career, huh? Like, how about now? You still want it? And I was like,
You're sweet.
yeah.
It's
It's
kind
like, oh yeah, all right, crack the knuckles, you
It's
know.
like your
let's do this.
childhood was this little platformer game. Now you're only playing Soulsborne games.
Yep.
for the rest of your
Hopefully
life.
not. Hopefully not. No, I think it doesn't feel that way. It feels the opposite. Like opposite. It actually feels like I was playing Soulsborne games with myself, and in my like middle part of my, you know, like
Yeah.
my 20s for sure were the worst, just for me and my trying to find
Yeah, me
myself
too.
in my bed.
Yeah.
Dude, people think that like your 20s are just supposed to be when everything works, and it's like just live your freaking life and
Yeah.
have fun and have friends and experiences, and like you'll find yourself so much more by the time you hit your 30s that you
thank
will.
God.
Dude, it's crazy. Like I'm telling you, man.
I'm
like
the youngest guy in the room, and I always just give them like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, dude, it's so funny. Like, I love being older. I
Yeah.
love, like, I'm going to be 35 in February. I'm so excited.
Woo!
Like,
No, it's just when he uses excuse. He's like, sorry guys, I'm forgetting some stuff. I'm
That-
almost 30.
that
I'm
was
like,
one
"Fuck
I'm
yeah."
time.
36
That was
and I'm
one
like,
time.
you dick.
That was one time.
yeah, but see, once you hit it, then you're going to be on the other end of it.
Yeah,
so
he
it's
hit
fine,
it.
you know,
He
yeah.
hit it. He's here.
I'm on the wrong side of 30.
No, dude, there's
I
no
know.
wrong side, man.
There's
It's
no
all,
wrong
this is
side.
all
No,
just
I
a
love-
crazy wild ride.
I
Like,
love getting older because I also don't. I was actually talking to my dad the other day about this because I was like, it's weird to say that I'm 36 because I'm like, I really don't feel it. I feel like I'm actually
A child.
degrading
like,
No,
with age.
what
like,
it made me realize was just how young my parents were. Like, you know, you always think
That's
of your parents as old, and then
exactly
you're like,
it,
oh
dude.
shit.
That's what I've been saying to so many people, that my biggest realization when I hit 30 was that my parents are just people.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest gift ever because
I
it
feel closer to my parents.
made me
'cause of
closer
it.
to them, so much closer to them. It made me just like forgive them. Like I didn't even have anything to like hold against them, but it just
No,
made
no,
me
no,
forgive
no.
them for anything because
You're
I was like,
"Oh,
how did you even
there's no way you could have known all those things.
thank you for the fact that I'm alive still.
Yeah.
What? Like
I mean, my mom had me when she was 23, and I thought of myself at 23, and I was like, no fucking way.
insane.
How did you
dude.
do that?
No way. Yeah, like so I just, it makes me just salute them even more and
Yeah,
appreciate them
for
even
sure.
more, and just because it's wild to me.
You are
Um,
such a good person. I look at mine. I'm like, you idiot.
No.
You idiot.
I guess
Come
there's
on,
two
man.
ways to approach it, I guess.
I
Tom.
guess
Oh,
there's
man.
two mentalities.
Why
Tom.
would you
I'm
say
sitting
that?
here thinking of all the stuff my mom did. And I was like,
Oh,
how did you
look,
even
look,
know?
look, my
You're amazing.
my
You're an
par-
amazing person.
My parents did good things for me. I'm
Sure.
alive, but they said a lot of dumb things to each other. I'm like, you idiot.
But that's why. Now
but,
you know.
Oh, but dude, I mean, like my parents got divorced. They did
Yeah.
plenty of dumb things to each
Yeah.
other. They've only in the last couple of years, and the great thing about my family is we're super open. So like, they don't even care that I'm talking about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, only in the last couple of years have we even been able to like all really like, we can all be in group
Be
text and like,
copacetic
yeah, like
and
we've
be
all been, yeah, like
humans.
we can be a family without being together in that way.
Right,
And like,
right.
it's took a long time to get there. But we got there, and I'm grateful we got there. But it's like, dude, all of us we're all a mess.
Oh,
Human
yeah.
beings are a
We're all
mess.
figuring it out.
And that's another thing too,
And we
that
never
like
will.
the thing too though about like, people, especially with Twitter and stuff, and it's like I'm glad that I can put that kind of energy out there. I'm glad that I can not be like a toxic part of that environment.
Sure, right.
But I also don't want it to be this thing where people think that like because of that they should put me on some kind of pedestal,
and
in
stop-
any way. Because it's like, dude, I'm just as
Or
much
that you
of
don't
a-
have your baggage or anything like
just
that.
as
yeah.
much of a mess of a human in any way. And like there's so many things that so many people wouldn't like about me that like I don't care that they wouldn't like about me. It's
Right,
like
right,
that's part of me, but it's that thing of,
They start looking at you like an idea.
yeah. And I just would rather be, another voice of just, putting positive energy out there for other people to carry and do their
Right.
thing with.
But knowing
instead
it's a
of,
conscious choice, like it's very easy to not do those things. But if you
sure.
if you can, like you said, flex
well,
that muscle.
you know
and-
what the thing is, for me, it's like if I have and it's even funny to think about because like it's a catch-22 because like part of me is like it's weird to say, but I have to acknowledge it, is that like if someone's giving me a platform, if anyone is giving me a place where they're willing to listen or want to listen or giving me their time or energy, like I've decided I have a responsibility to give, put good energy out there versus
A
like
positive impact.
yeah, like and I also, just for myself as well, like I genuinely don't enjoy being in like a negative headspace or like being antagonistic or fighting with people or having arguments. Like I'm all for having conversation, but I'm not really a big fan of an angry post. Like I just
There's no
don't.
hills to be dead on.
Yeah,
Right,
it's just
right.
it doesn't really do it for me, and it's not how I like to engage in communicating with people anyway.
Nobody wins.
It should be sharing ideas. It should be a dialogue. It should be a discussion. It should be like, cool, we understand each other as people, and that should be a better thing, not a worse thing.
And I acknowledge that because I'm in a position of I'm privileged to be working on really amazingly cool stuff that a lot of people love and would like to work on, and so they look at that and they're like, well, whatever he's doing must be. So what does he do? What's the thing?
secret
So
sauce?
like
that must be it.
So like if I'm gonna do anything and put it out there, like hopefully it'll just make more people positive and
Right.
kind. 'Cause,
That's
like,
what they
it's-
sponge
I
from
just
you.
I just want to put more of that out there in the world because we all deserve it,
Nice.
and hopefully it means more people are kind to themselves,
Yeah.
because really that's such a big thing now that I think we see is people are. We talked about it before with imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
and that's just in one field, in one part of life. Everybody goes through these like crippling, self-anxiety kind
And you
of
think
like
it's just you, but I guarantee
It's everybody.
who's on the other
everyone.
line is
It's
going through the
everyone.
same.
Yeah, and like the more we can just be compassionate with each other, like, and to ourselves, I think we can just get through life a little bit easier.
Nice. I think
Yeah.
that's a good place to segue into
Yeah,
the
we
next part of our
Very
show.
happy about this choice you've made for us.
So on our show, for those unfamiliar who are new to Nerd On, we like to not just interview our guest about them, but we like to interview them and talk to them and conversate about something that they love.
Mhm.
Get their
And
nerd on.
Get their nerd on about something. And Ryan sent over some options, and this one just screamed off the email to all of us. And we are going to do Charlie Chaplin's City Lights.
Yeah.
1931, baby.
1931.
Wow,
What a
yeah.
different time in Hollywood.
For sure.
Yeah.
Who wants to
Well,
get us started?
I want to start us off with Ryan. Why this film? Why is this one that stuck out to you?
Well, first off, this is easily like in the list of like hardest questions ever. Is like, what's your favorite movie or like make a
Right,
list? Because
yeah.
the second that like you sent me the poster and was like, is this all cool? I was like, oh, why didn't I say this movie or this movie? Like, there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many, like, have you guys seen Some Like It Hot?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my wife's
Yeah.
favorite movie.
Yeah,
We
like
watch it
we'll
every year.
also talk about that then too. 'Cause,
Okay,
like, oh my
perfect.
god, but
Oh my god, she's gonna love that.
yeah, oh my god, one of my favorites. Well, that that movie as well as many Chaplin films, were shown to me as a kid, as like an infant, basically. My
Oh, okay.
parents were just lovers of film, so they raised me
Lucky.
right on the good stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
And my dad really loved Chaplin and a lot of the black and white stuff. So I have Chaplin tattooed on my arm.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
very cool.
Because he was one of the first real, like, I didn't even, I didn't know how to comprehend it, but he was one of the first real influences in my creative journey of anything, because his story as a human, as an artist, as a creator,
Mhm.
going from, penniless in the streets to
Oh
A
yeah,
Hollywood giant,
literally
yeah.
one of the
Legends.
one of the creators of what is now Hollywood.
Yeah.
Composing. He wrote "Smile," the song "Smile."
Yeah.
It's like dude did so much that it's bananas.
worked so hard too.
This is a little bit of a question of contention amongst like film buffs or whatever's. Would you call him an auteur?
Oh gosh, we're gonna do
Oh.
that.
Oh, Tom.
Wow.
It's
Way
that's
to
the
bring it
hot
down,
question.
bro.
Well,
That's
I'm
the hot
just see
question.
like, but here's where like I'm that guy. It's like with the subs and dubs things. I'm the guy that like is like, oh, you're no fun, because I'm like, do we have to even call him that? Like, it's like I don't know that there needs to be a thing for it. I just think that he's an extraordinary storyteller.
Doesn't have to be categorized.
Yeah,
doesn't have to be compartmentalized.
I just think that
Respectable answer.
I leave that stuff to like, do they want themselves to be called that kind of thing? You know, but
That's like technically like the true answer, technically.
Yeah.
you know,
like because most directors are like, I don't know, it's up to me.
yeah.
I just make what I love.
And I think that, you know, really anybody that is doing anything, again, whether you're a director, any of us doing any of this stuff, it's storytelling. We're all storytellers, and it's participating in that in different ways. Whether you are the environmental artist on The Last of Us to, you know, Aaron Sorkin, you know,
You're right.
you're both storytellers and of equal value.
Mhm.
And regardless of, unfortunately, people not knowing certain people's names who do these incredible things. That's a whole other thing I want to get into. It's like the extraordinary artists who make these things and like don't get enough credit. But yeah, Chaplin, to go back, Chaplin just always was one of those people who there was an instant, the humor, the joy, the surreality I loved. I mean, even just like, as you can see, I dress like a crazy person. Like his style, even I was like, I like the way this dude dresses. Like I was like, I you know, so I was fascinated with him for years, and I watched, you know, all of his films and the shorts and everything. And The Kid is another one that
Oh my God, yeah.
I loved. But
Classic.
City Lights for me was one of the first films that it was when I was in high school, and I was really becoming like really heady about cinema, you know, like, you know, to the point where it was probably, if you asked me then,
You're
I
asking
probably
me
would
tour questions.
yeah, I would have had a different answer. Yeah, you know, exactly, you know,
All the
so
people I went to school with.
yeah. But I was trying not to be that guy, but definitely was regardless, you know. But I remember at some point getting around to like watching that again, and it was one of the movies that like obviously broke my heart in like the best way.
Right.
And it like reminded me to be vulnerable. It reminded me that the most important thing about all of this is being vulnerable. And I'm getting emotional even now thinking about it. Like the ending is
You
so
see?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ending is so
Yeah.
beautiful. And it was that thing where I was like, oh, that's why I love all of this. So it instantly became one of my favorite films because it's such a love letter to, I mean, it's so funny. It's so many things, but
Yeah.
it's
It's a
such a love
balancing
letter.
act, yeah.
It's such a balancing act, but it's such a love letter to love and to storytelling and to just the kind of like, there's so much more than like, you know, the value system of how we see people. There's
Right.
so many layers to it. So it was just so profound, and it hit me in such a big way that I was like, well, that's
This
on
is
the
it.
yeah,
This
that's
is
on the
it.
forever
Yeah,
list.
yeah, it spoke to you in some way. Like Chaplin, I mean, obviously, there were other great silent film comedians like Buster Keaton and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But Chaplin, for me, always had this really wonderful balance of like really ridiculous, absurdist comedy, but then this like gut punch. Like he
Yeah.
did not shy away from showing like real, true emotion, not even over the top romance, but
Yeah.
like something really vulnerable that even almost 100 years later, we're still like, oh, like Shakespeare, like it's just human. We all still relate to it.
Yeah, I mean, great dictator. You know, it's
Yeah.
like he was doing stuff then that people were just like, I'm not touching that. And
Yep.
he's like, let's go.
And
Let's do it.
one thing I really loved about Chaplin's work was that, like, I'm very critical of comedies, particularly nowadays.
Mm,
But the thing about him is that he let the camera kind of do the work. You know,
Yeah.
he like, okay, I'm going to show you everything.
he
and
was a
it's all-
great director.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm going to let all the actors physically do all the work, and it's like, it's not going to be about the edits and how fast you can get the joke in there, but it's like you're going to see the whole setup, and you're going to be like, don't fall. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Don't fall. Okay.
I mean, and I've, you know,
talk
stories
about that.
stories say that, you know, he was quite a brutal director, you know, because I'm sure that he was like,
He was a
he
perfectionist.
was, yeah, I'm sure it's like that David Fincher kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, that school of
Well, they've
like
said that-
everything in the shot has to be
They've
right.
said the same thing about Jackie Chan, but I mean, he's doing his own stunts. But in when he was doing films in China, I think he would do something like 170
Mhm.
takes to
Yeah.
get one thing right. And you know,
Some
if you
people
believe
just-
in it,
yeah.
though, like that's what
Because
it takes.
it's permanent.
Yeah.
You know, you
Well-
can't take back the movie.
There's that great story, and I know this is like totally tangent, but who cares? We're
Tangent.
yeah,
riding it.
tangent. We're riding the tangent.
When James Cameron was making Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and he went over to England to shoot it, and it was with the previous crew that had shot Alien with Ridley
Ridley
Scott, who was a native Englishman,
hmm
and apparently, like, the whole crew was basically like, screw this, you know, this Yankee, and you know, this like, you know, him and his wife coming in thinking like they know stuff like,
Terminator,
is-
whatever.
you know, this is our, well, it was before Terminator,
Yeah, no,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
was it? Was
I
it
think-
Aliens before?
I think it was.
I want to say yeah.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
I'll
But
just double check.
But either way, it was one of those things where they were like, you're coming here to sell, like, this is Ridley's thing. This is our thing. This is our, our turf kind of thing. Who are you, big shot? And, he basically was so on top of it, and not only on top of his own stuff, but literally like could do everyone else's job and was starting to do everyone else's job better than them. That they were like,
Oh shit.
oh snap, okay, and like they
Never
like,
mind.
they're like, this dude we're gonna line up, yeah.
Yeah.
And he earned their respect, but it was just that I love that story. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that's returning to Chaplin. It's an age in Hollywood that has always really held a place in my heart too. Just the 1960s and below. Like I grew up. My stepdad was older. He was born in the 40s, and so I grew up on a lot of older films. Like one of my favorite is Music Man or My Fair Lady.
Oh yeah.
A lot of those old musicals and stuff like that. And so I grew up on that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I remember, was it TCM?
Mhm.
Turner Classic
Mhm.
Movies. They would play Chaplin films,
Yep.
and that's what got me into it. But I always had like a fascination with physical comedy. It's one of the reasons
Same.
why it's
Big
one of the
same.
one of the reasons why I learned how to unicycle and
What?
juggle. It was just
He used to do mountain unicycling.
there's a unicycle up there.
Whoa, there is a unicycle up there. That is not just for comedic effect.
But it's one of those things that always, like, I took physical comedy classes, learning how to do it properly, but it was just always something that really, really interests me because there is a perfection that has to be with it because it's not just flopping around. There's choreography to it. There's
It's a song.
There's
It's
a
bit
precision
of a
and an
song.
art to it, yeah.
and
Jerry
it's-
Lewis, I'm sure.
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, man. It makes me like
Bellboy.
that's some of as comedy has moved forward, like the 80s with like Mel Brooks films where it's about the dialogue, but it's also sight gags, there's physical comedy, and then nowadays it's more so I always appreciate when there's physical comedy nowadays where you're like, oh, you guys, you remember
and if it's good.
PAs.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Edgar Wright. I watched a great. Do you guys?
Yes.
Did you ever watch Every Frame of Painting? Yeah. So you all know, you've seen this one where he
Yes.
talks about that, and that he brings up Edgar Wright as a great example, and it's that physical comedy is still very relevant, even if it's in the camera versus the
Right.
bodies. Like the humor is not just in the dialogue.
Yep. It's like
And-
Sean going to check on the zombies. The camera stays here. He walks up the ladder. It comes back a lot.
or just like, yeah, oh my god, it's amazing. Or there's that moment in Scott Pilgrim where he goes to the party and like one of his friends is like basically just like going at him and the lights are getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and then he
Yeah.
goes, oh, and it like and
Oh,
then
yeah,
they like
it's Aubrey
pop-
Plaza.
and there's all these moments that are just so choreographed so beautifully and
Yeah.
it's
Knife shining.
so funny and yeah,
It
oh,
feels
gosh,
like an homage to the silent film time.
for
a bit.
sure.
A
for
modern physical comedian is actually Doug Jones.
Oh,
who,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you get a chance to see, when I was taking some physical comedy classes, they showed me some of his live performances. They were obviously videos of it, but he's another one that
He's
just
extraordinary.
Yeah,
or if you've
he's-
ever seen Rowan Atkinson's
Yes.
invisible, he's got an
Another
invisible
one,
drum
yeah.
set
Yeah.
skit, which
It's
is
just-
just unreal. But with Chaplin and Keaton, I mean they pioneered it on film. Obviously, they both started like vaudeville on stage and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and brought it all here. And stuff, it's just so smooth. Like you were kind of talking about it, like "Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall," with the grate behind him at the shop
Yeah.
window.
Oh, it's effortless. Yeah.
Effortless, like
Yeah.
no
Well,
no peeking.
Even the
at
beginning, climbing from the statue, I was thinking about when he slips the sword
Yeah,
through his
Oh
pants.
yeah,
Like it's one of those things where like mechanically he knows what he has to do. He knows that there's the thing there and he knows where the hole is, but it's like how do you do that? How do you make that move and make it seem natural and make it
like
not
you're not a
seem-
part of it.
Yeah, like that stuff is not easy, you know.
With the great thing you're saying, like he makes it look so natural. It's like I watched and so you were asking us earlier before we started recording, was this the first time? This was my first time watching it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
And I
I'm
hadn't watched it
surpri-
for
I'm surpri-
15
Yeah, I'm
years.
surprised that I missed it. But like, so now I get to watch it, after I've studied and I'm just like watching. I'm like, I'm gonna look at every frame.
Tom went to film school.
Yeah,
every,
just, you know?
every
No, dude, dude, we could go off. for
Oh, I asked the
days.
auteur question. Did I go to film school?
Yeah.
But no, I was looking at like all the continuity and all that stuff. There's a moment where his foot almost goes off, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh yeah,
a couple
yeah.
times.
yeah, and
it's
so
hanging off.
and
the
you're
edge.
watching that. I'm like, like, oh, this is a trained thing. Like
Yeah.
you see the mastery and the craftsmanship behind the movements. So like it's not lost on people. Like, oh my goodness, how much do they rehearse and practice to make this look simple?
Yeah.
That's the magic, right? To make it look
Yeah,
simple
to make
for
it
us.
look effortless.
Yes.
Like you didn't put a ton of work.
Like
into
we've
it.
said on the show before of like, it's good when you don't notice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, if you don't receive notes, like that kind of thing where it's like, then
Yeah.
if you don't notice it, then you've
But
done
yes,
your job.
Especially Josh is an audio mixer here, so he's like, if no one notices my work, that means I fucking nailed it. Which is
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a bit.
No,
Straight up.
but it's true. Yeah,
Uh,
it's like it's why most people when they why most fans of movies don't go like, man, that editor was amazing. They just go,
Right.
those actors and that director made a great film, and you're like,
It's pretty thankless, but if you love it, like you
That's,
said, you
yeah.
can't help it.
Yeah.
It's passion. I gotta ask for this film, is there a specific scene? I mean, I know you almost got choked up at the end.
oh,
here,
it's
but is there-
I mean, the ending.
is
kills
that
me.
what it
You know what? Because it's the play out from like it's not just the last shot. It's the moment where the kids start picking on him,
Just
and
at the beginning of the movie.
yeah,
the
like
motif.
and she's got this, the shop, and she's successful now and
Mhm.
can see, and like it's the whole thing where because she sees the whole thing play out, so it's like the whole movie. You're watching him do all of these selfless things for her.
Yeah.
And like really like it's ridiculous to the extent he goes, and you get a sense that she's sweet and kind and everything, but you also like just because of human nature, you also kind of question like, is it because of her situation in life that she's just kind of like,
Nice.
yeah,
Right.
like exactly,
She
because
hasn't
like
been given a chance to be malicious yet.
Yeah. And I definitely remember, or is she just nice because she thinks he's rich? Or is it like-
exactly all of those things. So by the end, when it's not just her realizing it's him from the touch of his hand, it's that, and having just literally experienced all the stuff that's just gone through and seen this guy literally as like a vagabond.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Tramp.
immediately she puts her hand to his heart, his hand to her heart, and it's like it's like you're home now kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is just, it's so
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's it's rare. That kind of love exists, but it's just
Right.
it's so, and especially in this world where so many people are just fighting all the time. Forget about romance, just
Well, especially in a comedy, like a silent
Yeah.
film comedy, it's not.
I
as
was
common.
I was gonna say, I think the first short film Corey and I worked on, I'm the exact antithesis of that. Of like, no, people are going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but no, to your point, like there is a wonderful vulnerability in that film.
Yeah.
where it's just like
And
the
honesty.
heart is on the wrist. It is
Oh,
just
yeah.
showing you like
it's and
yeah.
I get it, saccharine, like
Well,
but
I mean, but the thing is, like, there's so much, like me as a product. There's so much jadedness. So much people are afraid to be
Mm.
wholesome and authentic and be like, love can exist. Wonderful things can happen every day if we just opened ourselves to it. Instead
People are
of
afraid to be cheesy too.
instead of-
it doesn't come across at
Yeah,
all in this.
The as cliche as it is, the vulnerability. Even for the Nerd On Nation, Tom posted a video and somebody made a comment of like, how vulnerable you guys are in these videos. I'm amazed, and I'm
Mm.
like, and to me, I'm like, I forget like to be vulnerable on a public platform in a film. As like creators, you're like, oh yeah, like it hits you when you see that. Like you're like, wow.
it's tough, and I think you talked about it with social media posts, and it's like we're all people. I think there's something, and to me, it hits me much more as an artist. It's just like you're creating something for people to hopefully enjoy. Sometimes it's for yourself, and like there's that story that Chaplin was stubborn enough to be like, hey, sound is coming into films, and people are starting to record talkies now, but I'm still going to make this film silent.
well, and I love we say silent, but it's like I love it opens with like the kazoo talk.
Yeah,
and,
right,
like,
right.
it's so good. It's
Because that's
so
where you would
good.
in the theater they would have been doing that on
Yeah.
the piano. And
yeah.
But like it's like as people, as artists, as whatever, we're all navigating on this hurling blue thing in space that's getting expanded, and like it'd be crazy to think that if hopefully on that darker day that one of us leaves the planet, people didn't actually understand who you were.
Mm.
And like didn't understand who you were as a human being, and that's why like to me that there is this sense of like with auteurs or artists making films, it's like you kind of want to know what their intention was. You want to know
what they're about.
what they were going through.
Like, what's your point, man?
Yeah, well, but I mean,
like,
I think you got to learn so much through all of your extensive quote unquote research, but just you loving film and storytelling. It's like who the cinematographer is, what is the artist, how old were they, what marriage was this? It's like what was going on in their lives when they were making this thing that kind of informs like this is why the story needed to be told. And I think those are like wonderful things that like a lot of people, as you're talking about in the internet, want to argue, and then people just want products and not art sometimes. So it's tough, and it's like it's so much more lovely and authentic when you find like, oh, this really meant a lot to this person.
Yeah. You're also making me realize that I think subconsciously my whole life, the idea of Chaplin as the tramp character, that's like kind of a spiritual keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Like and I think I've always inherently just identified with that, because even the thing about like anytime you see him as that character through these films, like he's technically the most down on your luck you can be.
Always at a disadvantage.
But he's always kind of just like,
all right, gotta go on.
Yeah, he's just moving on.
But he also treats himself like he's always cleaning off his suit.
Always cleaning off. He's always
taking
care of himself. He sees himself in a way that at least is like, he feels dignified. He feels like a person. He feels valuable, even if society doesn't
says
value
he isn't.
him.
Yeah, right.
And like he doesn't, and he feels all the things. He feels every emotion. But it's like, I love that. And one of my favorite, you're gonna think this is kind of weird, but maybe you'll get it. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Also,
speaking my language.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Speaking my language.
I've, which I also attribute to similar mentality. There's what I call the big gulp philosophy.
God. Nerd on moment.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, no, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know the moment you're talking about. What's your philosophy behind the big goal moment?
Well, it's the idea, I mean, really, I guess behind his whole character, right? Is that like Lloyd in that moment, they're it's like probably 3 a.m. or something in like the middle of nowhere at a 7-Eleven, and like he's rolling out of it like with like a bunch of snacks and stuff, and they're just ready to hit the road, and there's these 2 dudes who are just standing there like, who like in anyone's right mind, you do not talk to these dudes, you just keep walking, and like even if you were to, they clearly are not there to talk to you. And he just kind of like stops, and it's like almost like a puppy. He's just like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Like, and there's no response, and he's
big
like,
gulps, huh?
Big gulps, huh? All right, well, see you later. And he's just so unfazed by what could be such a severe blow to so many people emotionally, and like that. Literally, people could take that non-response and that like energy combatant as like that could carry with people for years.
Yeah, like I can't believe I said that to those
or
guys.
just oh my god, like
about it.
There's like that can live in you, and that can carry, and then the next interaction. Oh my god, like, but to Lloyd, nope. Like
right.
And it wasn't even a matter of like in his mind, it's like cool, whatever. Either way is cool. It's all cool. Like no worries. Like that's the way to live, man.
Nice.
Like
big gulps, huh?
Yeah,
like, love that.
So
my one of my best friends, Mikey. The first time I ever met him, I was talking about tangents here. I was up with I had my knee iced. I had played some basketball, messed up my knee, and so my wife was like, "I want you to meet my friend Mikey." They were out with a couple of their buddies. I'm gonna bring him home, and I was like, "I don't want to meet anybody right now."
You played basketball?
I'm sitting here at Apple.
That was the last time.
That was the last time I played basketball.
I was like, "Wait, what?"
And I was like, "I don't want to meet anybody." She's like, "It'll be real quick." And I was watching Dumb and Dumber, as you do, because I was in a bad mood or whatever.
That's amazing.
So he comes in the room, and I was like, "I guess I'll meet this guy." And it's my wife, her friend, and Mikey in the back.
Girlfriend at the time.
Girlfriend at the time. And they come in there talking to me, and he looks at the screen, and he turns back, and he goes, "Big gulps, huh?" All right, see you later. And I was like, "We're gonna be friends."
Yeah,
and
I love
to this
those
day,
moments.
I was like, "This guy's all right. This guy gets it." Okay.
I love those moments.
So I love that big gulp philosophy. I really love that.
It's the best.
I mean, I talk about it on the show a lot. I don't know if it's ribbing, but now I've just dubbed Josh the Paddington guy. Because Paddington,
I still haven't seen it. I know. Apparently, they're incredible. I know.
I
know.
I'm going to connect this all together. Because
I gotta be honest. He unplugged both of them. He's so mad.
He pulled a full Corey. That's my move. That's my move.
I bring this up because I think what you're saying with Lloyd, and also with
Paddington and Chaplin. I'm starting to like
the Tramp is a flat character arc in a good way, right? Like technically a lot of people are like, oh, it has to be a good guy or turn into a bad
It's
guy.
like an archetype.
But then it's like
The tramp.
it's a person who's a good person and everyone becomes good around them.
That
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
like that's what happens with it. And I think that,
Exactly.
talking about City Lights now as the film, things that I thought I wasn't prepared for, because I was gonna like, is this gonna be just like bit after bit after bit? And then you see the moment with Harry and he's about to take his life, and it's like, okay, here's this, and it's like, oh no, this is the setup for the entire movie. That like,
Yeah.
he's gonna have this run in with this,
Jekyll and Hyde,
yeah,
alcoholic.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
And the millionaire kicks him out multiple times, but what happens? He doesn't stop. It doesn't say, "Hey, I don't like you." He's just like, "Oh, okay, whatever you need, I'm going to be there." And then it's like, "Hey, can I ask you for a favor next time?" And then he gets put, he's framed for the robbery. All this bad stuff happens to him, but like I think he doesn't lose that big gulp moment. He doesn't lose that.
No.
Like, no, I'm gonna do the right thing. Like I'm gonna go get beat up in a boxing match to hopefully get her treatment.
The box.
The box match is amazing. The
my
Street Fighter
God,
style, like
But then also there's like that wonderful moment that like the thing that's great about him is that like that's tough with most flat art characters. Like sometimes it's hard to find flaws with them, other than them being just too naive. Like the cool thing about the tramp is that like he's just nice to a fault, but he's not really naive. He kind of knows like, oh, you're not driving the car. Like now it's your car. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, where's this girl? Like she wasn't at the normal spot. Like he's thinking. Like that's the tough thing with flat art characters. But the
He
thing
still moves the plot.
But one thing that I really liked about this was the moment at the stables where he gets the soap and the cheese. So he's also he's fallible. He's not perfect. So I'm like, he's just a really good person who also is just a person too.
Well, to Ryan's point, he feels
Yeah.
every emotion. He feels frustration and anger in other films and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's not he's not one dimensional in that sense.
he really feels like such a great like I don't want to say every man, but like he feels like such a relatable character to all people in so many
Very
ways.
human,
And it's like
humanistic.
yeah, and I love that he chose a tramp
Yeah.
as his way to tell those stories, because I think that's the point.
Well,
Yeah.
it's in a weird tit for tat, hopefully not comparison to Thief of Joy in the way. It's like the tough thing with like I always bring this up, like why Bruce Wayne's a tough character sometimes. It's easy when you do it. It's like only human stories and like all of a sudden like all these supernatural things, but it's like how do you identify with the billionaire? You go for the emotional states. Where like the tramp, it's like just seeing him being around the world and how he's navigating things, it's like, oh, I immediately put myself in that
Instantly,
place.
yeah.
So it's very identifiable.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason movies, like you said, Some Like It Hot, still hit home, is just because they're human focused. We all have these, even in Some Like It Hot, Marilyn Monroe's having doubts about herself. And,
Yeah. No character. That's such a great example I didn't even think about with that movie, is that the whole time she's this extraordinary thing that they're all fawning after and
Right.
everything. And even she throughout the whole movie is so uncertain about so much in her life. Everyone is so broken. And it's
So why would this guy love me? And this shell corporation. Anyway,
that movie is so complicated with the 3 layers of personalities that everyone puts on, and like it is such
we'll
a
have
high
you back
wire
to talk about that
Dude,
movie
I
specifically.
would love to. I love that movie so much. Oh my gosh.
We should do that. Bring Dana in, because it is my wife's #1 movie of all time.
I adore that movie.
We'll bring them all in. We'll have a group discussion.
Hell
about Some
yeah.
Like It Hot.
Cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm so down.
All right.
I was just gonna say, like, watching movies. I mean, in general, I don't know if you guys experience this, but for me, as a creator in different capacities, as a performer, as somebody who works in post, watching something like the boxing scene, I'm imagining just like the choreography and just like what's going on behind the set. I mean, at that time, there could probably be talking on set. Okay, go left, go right. Okay, like all the different choreography of just.
I always think
was
about
like, wow.
the background and think about like, oh my, there's so many people.
Yeah.
It's like imagine that second unit
Oh,
AD.
yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, he's just going crazy right now. Like, but then Chaplin has to be like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This was an important thing, and then it's like, you fill the world, you light the world. All that
Yeah.
stuff. So it's like, man, it's definitely cool to see. You're just saying like you see the breadth of the production. I'm like, oh, it's a giant machine.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It's intense. I mean, even, it's a totally different scale, obviously doing voiceover, but even still, there are so many people involved in that process and in those productions, in any given production, that no actor should be like presumptuous enough to think that they like have
They're
any
running the show,
it's like you're
No.
you know,
You're just
like
a cog in the machine.
yeah, you're
bro.
part. You're part of you know, and
Something.
in the most positive of ways, you're a part of the team. You know, like
Yeah.
you are.
It's a collaborative
part of something big.
process.
I always I look at my sessions, and it's because of my life in music, but I look at sessions as band practice, where I'm like, this is my band at the moment. This is what and it's like it's kind of this weird hybrid
dig
where
that.
it's band practice and it's the show at the same time, except I get to go to the concert later and see it. It's like it makes no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's cool.
you know, but
That is
like
pretty
I
legit.
dig it.
That's a
but-
really great way to put it.
you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like once it's out, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm at the concert now. But like during the process, it's like we're making the final product, but we're also in what feels like a band practice. It's
Yeah.
this collaborative, fun thing where you're not in a vacuum by yourself. You're with other people with opinions, and you're not the star. Even if you're the
No,
even if you're the star of the show, you're not the star of the show. You know.
We wrote a web series, and instead of focusing it on, we focused it on PAs, production assistants. So
Mhm.
it's an entire series about like bottom of the barrel that makes it's super thankless, but really they're like a heart of a production. It's
Yeah,
these
they
people
hold
who-
everything
who
together.
show up first, leave last. And
it's
it's about
because
that
they-
team. Like it's a team. It is a team. Everyone has their place, and they're all just as important as the next person.
1000%.
That's why I always think that I'm grateful for the yes and philosophy from improv. Like, no matter what job that you work, like as an audio mixer, as an actor, it's like yes and is actually a really super helpful collaborative thing to be in. Like when you receive notes, you're like, yeah, let's try that, and let's do this,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
how do I make it better than I found it? That kind of thing of like we're just working together on this thing, and we're doing a thing.
Yeah.
We're making stuff.
Like
Quite-
this podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and quite often, even when there's a bunch of people asking a question, either sometimes everyone has a good right answer, or it's about finding the right answer between everyone. It's
Right.
like there's a lot
Yeah.
of different versions of how a thing can work out for the better. And I think I was talking about it with a friend yesterday that another philosophy that I try and constantly remind myself of is get out of my own way.
Mhm.
You know, like there are so many
Still
times
learning that one.
even in sessions where like I have to remind myself to just like shut up, because I'll be like like the director will be giving me a note, and I'll start to like like my brain will
Snowball that.
well no, not snowball, well I guess you'll just want to converse on it more, and I'm
Yeah.
like, just let them have the complete thought and just do the thing, and you can talk about it again after if you need to. It's like, and so much of it is just letting everything be all the pieces and letting it be this thing.
Yeah. There's to the point of, I think you were saying as well with sometimes there's multiple right answers.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they all come up at the same time.
Yeah.
And then for me, I've
Mm.
never had a yes and moment for me. I'm never yes and. I'm always, okay, but how am I going to do this? And that's typically what my mode's always like, because yes and I feel like is really cool collaboratively, but then sometimes when it's like, okay, a decision has to be made, it's like, okay, I want to make sure I can do what everyone wants, but how am I going to do this? And that's like,
are you one of those people who you like those scenarios? Like you thrive off of the like, oh, I get to like figure this out.
I kind of do like masterminding a
yeah.
little bit, because I'm being behind the camera. Like a lot of people in front of the camera are like, hey, what if we did it this way? What if we started here? And then I'm like,
You're like, it won't work
well,
because
it's like,
you see the
the
yeah.
script's here. I was like, okay, can we do this? Does it tell the right story? Is it getting the intention of what the writing is? Okay, how do I do this?
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, how does this change? How does this change the setup? How is this going to ripple? And then it's like, it's yes and, but it's
Yeah.
a different version of
Well,
of
but that's
missing.
it's still a yes and,
Mhm.
because I think what you're getting at, and ultimately you're saying too, is like the one thing you don't want is someone to just be like no,
go
and
away.
then and it's not about the no. No is fine, but it's not. It's the no and then no suggestion on there.
Mhm.
And it's like with
It's a
nothing to
wall.
offer. Yeah, like
you're like cool.
yeah, because it's like, well, I guess I'll come up with another
Yeah.
option, and like
I guess
and,
we just shut down everything. Cool.
and sometimes you're gonna be in those scenarios for whatever reason, and like you have to figure it out. But like thankfully, 99.9% of the time, like that's not how my industry works, and everyone in all their different positions is respectful of each other and aware of like we're lucky that like we often in sessions will be like we get to make cartoons, like this is crazy, like we're
Mhm.
like we're often aware of it like in the middle of the job, and especially now with so much of it being remote, and people it's one, the world being in the state that it's in is hard on everyone regardless
Right.
of life being good or bad or whatever, and then two, doing anything full time from home than with your family and life and all these things, like so much more on your plate. Like, it's almost harder for some people to work from home in some ways. And it's it's been really interesting doing these sessions because it's almost like we're helping each other through like therapy, reminding each other of like this is an incredible thing that we get to do through this joy of like this process of like whatever the noise is going on in the world and outside and in these moments, like this is our time to be
Yeah.
in this play gratitude zone. And it's yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love that energy. Quentin Tarantino does that on his sets. Yeah,
Why
why we do? Because we
like
love
to
to make
Oh
movies.
yeah, I've heard he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love, and I'm assuming it's true. I've heard that he doesn't let anybody take their phones to set.
There's a lot of directors that you hear that with. I mean, it doesn't strike me as odd.
No.
No,
Yeah,
I love
think
it
it's
because
great.
I love the idea of like take away the distraction,
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah. If you got downtime, maybe talk to someone.
Yeah,
on set.
like-
yeah.
Like Eastwood, it's a quiet set. No one
Yeah.
talks during it. They just quietly work instead of.
But they
everybody.
also are going to be done in
Yeah.
a 5-hour shoot day
Yeah.
because he's gonna shoot half the movie in a week. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
True.
Yeah.
it's so fascinating how that's another thing is sets like that and dynamics and directors and those energy. It's so different because it's such a it's a different energy. It's the best way to put it because like even when you're going into studios for VO, it does not feel the same as walking onto a set. Like even if you are
no.
even if you're walking into a group recording or you're walking into a session where the director is like you're like, oh my god, you're so and so, like it still doesn't feel like if you walked onto a set and you had to do something with Edward Norton. Like that's
Sure.
like it in a way that in the best way. I mean, because it is everyone is just far more humble, far more just like, no, we're here to just play and get down to earth. And I'm not saying that people on camera aren't also, but by and large, like you get to just go and get in the space of it and play. And part of it is because there aren't 30 people, surrounding you trying to light and this and that and whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing a film shoot, even if you're the guy with substantial amount of dialogue and this and that and whatever throughout the day, let's say you have 15-hour shoot day, maybe you're only talking for 20 minutes, like on
Right.
camera, whereas if you have a 4-hour session or a 2-hour session in VO, you're going to go in and from the start to
start
the
to
end of those
finish,
2 hours,
yeah.
like unless you wrap early, like you're going to fill that time with playtime. And
Yeah.
like, that's so much better.
It's wild.
It's
It's
wild.
wild.
Hell yeah.
Well, Ryan, it was so awesome to have you on the show. Thank you
This is
so much
great,
for
yeah.
spending time with us.
Thank you so much for
and
having me.
bringing your,
I'm
your
honored.
nerd
I hope you
on here.
enjoyed.
Oh my gosh, I had a blast.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you back for Some Like It Hot for real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, please.
So, this is the opportunity to plug. What would you like our audience to check out? I know My Hero World Heroes Mission is in theaters right now, but will soon be out.
Yeah,
I'm-
crazy. It's still amazingly still in theaters. And dude, this life is so surreal. It's a surreal life. I have 2 movies in theaters right now. I have a small part in the new Sword Art Online progressive film.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
that literally just came out this week in theaters. And so yeah, as one is leaving, another one is entering. And
City
there's-
Lights, baby.
yeah, City Lights. Yeah. Hell yeah. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, so that's the new stuff. There's some other stuff coming out soon that I'll get to be all loud about. So it's mostly just stay on the socials and
Yeah,
Where can
Final
they find you at?
on Twitter at Ryan Colt Levy and Instagram at Ryan Colt. Just chop off the end. And yeah, that's really it. I'm one of those people who I have my like social moniker on all the different platforms just so that it's like more of a safety mechanism,
Yeah.
but I don't really use any of the other ones at all.
Just Twitter's.
Yeah, Twitter's the one that, funny enough, I never thought I would like, and has become my favorite because I'm like, oh, it's just a giant conversation. Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
really cater it. Be like, I only want to follow these people, and then they're going to bring positive energy. to me.
That's when I realized I liked it. I was like, oh, it can be a cesspool, but it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 My Twitter right now is.
You were
point.
saying that before, yeah.
I'm just
and
like, yeah.
I know
that's what
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. My TikTok's the same.
Yeah.
It's like, you know me. You know me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Also, thank you for not putting my blast for not pronouncing your last name correctly, Levy. No,
Le-
my last name is 12 letters long. So I'm very like, I need to make sure everyone's last name is pronounced correctly.
I get
So no,
I
thank
get
you,
it.
thank you.
Yeah. Sing us home, Josh.
Yes, everybody at home, thank you so much for watching or listening if you're on your favorite podcast app. While you're there, stop by, rate and review, share us with your friends, your family, all of that good stuff. That stuff really does help us grow. Reviews are sometimes the way that people make a decision on whether to even listen. All of our episodes are on our website, nerdon.tv. We just passed 400 episodes recently.
Oh my
Yeah.
So the whole
back.
catalog, the whole
My
catalog.
30-year-old back.
I know, man. Dang. The whole catalog is on our website because I know that some podcast apps have a limit.
Cut off.
So check it out, nerdon.tv. It also has all of the links on everything that we do. Our other podcasts, there's this one, Nerd on the Podcast. There's the Nerd on Update. And there's also our sister show, The Capeless Crusaders. So check them out. Yeah, that's it. Make sure, hop on over to manscaped.com and use the code NERDON to get 20% off and free shipping. And check out that Nerd On Nation. It's a fun group of people. You get to support us. We're really close to a goal of 60 members. Once we reach that, the Nerd On Nation gets to pick a topic for one of our episodes.
Y'all choose.
4 quarters, baby.
That's all it is.
That's a lot of power.
Right?
Lot
It's
of
a lot
power.
of power. So do check that out. But that's it. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. You know the drill. As always,
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.